Can I just read it out anyway? I'll get something to say at the end. For more than 40 years, individuals, businesses and communities across Scotland have experienced the many social, economic and cultural benefits of the EU membership. The EU was born out of needs of European countries to prioritise cooperation over conflict. Relationships of respect and cooperation can also drive developments for mutual interest to help Europe lead and shape a better future in the world. Benefits include the freedom to live, study, work, trade or travel across the EU's 28 member states. For businesses, this places them within the world's largest trading area of 500 million consumers. For the education sector, it provides life-changing opportunities abroad for our students and researchers and for international collaboration. For our communities, benefits include social and development funds which support Scottish Government's work to secure new jobs, opportunities and inward investment in Scotland. The EU is not simply an economic union, it's also about solidarity, social protection and mutual support. Scotland benefits enormously from being part of the EU, a vital export market accounting for almost half of Scottish exports in 2013, amounting to just close to 13 billion, and directly or indirectly supports 300,000 Scottish jobs. However, one of the strongest arguments for the EU is the social Europe. Leaving all those things related to this in the hands of the Conservatives government out with a social European protection is a serious risk as far as I'm concerned, and I'll develop that later on. Solidarity is at the heart of why membership matters. Working collaboratively, we can address present global changes and challenges such as the movement of refugees and migrants, energy security and climate change. The EU has given us valuable and hard-sought for social protections. This includes measures to prevent the exploitation of workers and the right not to be discriminated against on the grounds of age, gender or race. The EU supports the ambitions of people to improve their lives, of businesses to innovate and grow, and of governments to economic prosperity. I believe that the EU should focus more on economic and social policies that make a tangible difference to the lives of its citizens, while allowing member states more autonomy to address specific domestic needs. Nothing isn't rosy in the European Union that needs to be changed, in my view. It is now more important, that even more so, that those who support Scotland and the UK's continued EU membership make the case as strongly as possible. The conclusion of an agreement at the European Council means the focus now shifts to the bigger and much more important matter of why our continued European Union membership is overwhelmingly in Scotland and the UK's best interests. I am sure the Scottish Government will remain at the forefront of this argument because Scotland benefits from being part of the EU and the EU benefits from having Scotland as part of it. I value Scotland's positive relationship with the European Union and will continue to make the strongest case possible for a vote to remain in the EU. We must argue the positive case of developing the Europe that we want, whether we are talking about social Europe, energy security or climate change. A lot has been achieved, but a lot more must be done. The SNP advocated a double majority for the EU referendum so that all 4 nations of the UK would need to vote to leave the EU. However, the UK government rejected these calls. No respect for other nations in the EU and the UK yet again. The First Minister made it clear that holding an EU referendum in June would be a mistake. The Scottish Government requested that the referendum should not be held on the 23rd of June and is concerned that the referendum campaign will cut across the election campaigns of the Scottish Parliament and the other devolved administrations. On the Andrew Marr show on the 24th of January 2016, Nicola Sturgeon said that David Cameron would be making a mistake if he tried to hold the referendum in June. And on Wednesday, the 3rd of February 2016, the First Minister of Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland wrote to the Prime Minister expressing their concern about the possibility of a June 2016 referendum. This was yet again ignored, another indicator of the contempt that the devolved parliaments by the Tories. Now that's regardless of how people feel about this election. The total contempt that Westminster shows for devolved administration, in my view, is a disgrace. If the UK were to vote to leave while Scotland wanted to stay, that would trigger an overwhelming demand for a Scottish independence referendum. The democratic outrage of being taken out of Europe against our will would make that almost inevitable. And I do hope that folk who actually believe in coming out of the European Union would agree with me that that would be a democratic deficit if you consider the make-up of the United Kingdom, where it stemmed from, and the treaty that created the United Kingdom. And the idea, just because you've got a bigger population, would suggest that China should make all the decisions for everybody else in the world because they've got a bigger number. And that's what would happen here. A bigger country with its own view, which they're entitled to, could possibly take us out against our will, and that for me is unacceptable. We were told during the referendum campaign that our place in the EU was only safe if we voted no. What a joke that is, eh? The First Minister has made it clear that she doesn't want that situation to arise simply because we in the SNP want independence, and we want it, as you well know, strongly. We will be arguing for Scotland to vote to stay in the EU, and the UK as a whole should remain within the EU. However, on the 2nd of June 2015, the First Minister made it clear in her speech to the European Policy Centre that this would be one scenario producing the kind of material change in the circumstances which would precipitate popular demand for a second independence referendum. The overwhelming majority of the people of Scotland want to play a positive, constructive role alongside our friends and allies in Europe. And if this is put at risk by reckless actions of a Tory government, people in Scotland will very quickly come to the conclusion that Westminster is simply incapable of representing Scotland's interests. As an Ipsos Mori poll for STV on the 10th of February 2016 found that if Scotland was dragged out of Europe against our will, 54% would favour independence compared to only 39% who would be opposed, giving a result of 58% backing independence once don't knows are discounted. Polls have consistently shown that the people of Scotland recognise the importance of the UK's continued membership of the EU. The same Ipsos Mori polling for STV on the 10th of February found that 62% of people in Scotland will support retaining our place in Europe, compared to only 26% who would back leaving. A YouGov poll on the 5th of February 2016 found strong support in Scotland for remaining in the EU, with 66% of people favouring staying in the EU, while the situation in the UK as a whole shows a 50%, 56%, and that's including the Scots, mind you, who want to stay in. They're in favour of leaving when you can, in the whole of the UK when it's included. David Cameron's reckless approach to renegotiation risks pleasing no one, and only succeeds in pushing some more people further towards the exit door. The Scottish Government believes that the EU Referendum Act fails to meet the gold standard set by the Scottish Independence Referendum. And I think that many are disappointed, and I think comes from both sides, that the 16 and 17-year-olds have been disallowed from participating in this election, whereas in the Scottish referendum they were able to participate in that, and they will be in this present Scottish parliamentary election. Now let me finally say this. I turned up to here a few months ago, and I was here to listen to the debate, and it was with regards to what was happening with the trade union bill and the attacks on the trade union movement and working people. Now, I heard all the arguments there. In fact, I don't think it was a debate. I think it was more like a rally. I don't think there was a single dissenting voice in regard to what the Tories were trying to do under this ill-conceived bill. And yet, the prospect is that if we vote to come out of the EU, then the hard-won things that working people have achieved and held in place by Europe, make no mistake about it, if it was left to the Tories, it would be decimated. And yet, if we come out, and this is an election time, and that's one of the reasons why it's bad for somebody like me, because I need to invoke this. And I don't want to be disparaging towards my Labour colleagues, I really don't. But the reality is, I can't see Labour getting into power for 20 years. There's in so much disarray. I hope it's not the case in many ways. I hope it's not the case. Because in the UK, I'm talking about the UK, it's just how I see it. So therefore, if I'm right, and in a way I hope I'm wrong, because you need a strong opposition to the Tories, then we're going to be at the hands of the Tories for that length of time. And I don't know what's going to happen. If you see what they're up to right now, they're more Thatcher than Thatcher is. And I can't for the life of me see how people are going to be able to withstand a Tory government running roughshod over people's rights. And I'll leave my case on that.
Right, thanks, Chair, and can I thank the organisers again for organising this meeting. I think it's extremely important that we get the opportunity to hear different points of view now. Now, some of what I'm going to say you've heard already, but you're going to hear it again. But starting off, make no mistake about what the original architects of the European Union were all about. The Monnets, the Schumanns, the Spinellis. They wanted to create a European super-state based on a capitalist model. And now, look what we've got to do. It's not got its own flag, it's got its own anthem, it's got its own government, it's got its executive, the commission, it's got its own parliament, and it's got its own citizens. That's you and I, it's in your passport, you're a European Union citizen. It's even got its own currency, own flag, currency. It's got all the trappings of statehood. And this wasn't achieved by any sort of direct means. Nobody voted for us in one go. It was all achieved by manipulation, by subterfuge, by deviousness, because I was going to say, nobody had its constitution. But of course, what happened to the constitution when it was rejected, they just typically reparcelled it and called it the Lisbon Treaty. And that was in spite of people, ordinary citizens, voting against it. So they changed, that's what they did. And as I say, much of this progress was achieved by deviousness, and we're still being subjected to misleading statements at the present day. We've done the one about the European Union having kept the peace in Europe since 1945, and as we explained, it wasn't really a European Union. In fact, the Marshall Plan has got much more validity to be called the cause of keeping peace in Europe since 1945. I suppose it would be difficult to imagine a situation where Germany was able to go to war with France again. And the other thing, of course, is we're also hearing at the moment the stories about how dreadful it would be if the UK chose to leave the European Union. Well, in 1975, with the same voices telling us, we shouldn't, what will happen if we don't join the Euro? This is the case for joining the Euro. And you know, the same names, all the same faces. For the trade unions, for business, for journalism, and all the rest of it, telling you the dreadful state of affairs that would occur if the UK didn't join the euro. And of course we didn't. We didn't join the euro, and the sky didn't fall in. We're still here to prove the point. And they're saying that if we didn't join that flawed project, as we see now, about the euro, we would suffer a dreadful fate. We'd lose influence, we'd cease to become a low inflation country. All these sort of things that we're hearing now about what would happen if we leave the European Union. And the same analysis that we had against the euro, joining the euro, still applies when we look at the European Union today. And it's really about what the European Union is all about, how it's been constructed, where it is and where it wants to go, and how it wants to develop its neoliberal economic agenda. To look at the genesis of the political and economic agenda, you've got to look at the articles, the initial articles of the European Union treaties. Articles 3 and Article 3A. These are the ones that talk about the commitment to the abolition of obstacles to the free movement of goods, persons, services and capital, and to act in accordance with the principle of an open market with free competition. And these clearly demonstrate the primacy of the free market over other considerations. And that's what lies behind the drive for further integration. It's what lies behind the desire to, and every opportunity they get, to impose further privatisations on people, as they did in Greece and Spain and so on. And it's how it demonstrates quite clearly how the primacy of the free market devalues the rights of workers in the European Union. And you can see that in the response to the financial crisis, and how at the first opportunity they imposed these privatisations and they inflicted austerity on the citizens of the European Union. Although, to be fair, austerity as an economic tool doesn't work. And it's quite simply because the poor have got even less money, so they're not going to spend money. The rich, they stash it on their property portfolios. So the economy stagnates, doesn't go anywhere. And they still think that's the answer, because it makes them look tough to the international markets. But who pays the price for it? The ordinary citizens, the people that the European Union claims are its citizens. They're the ones that bear the burden of this. And as I say, it stagnates the economy, doesn't provide anything other than a pretext for cuts in welfare, as we've seen in various places. And just a wee word about democracy in the European Union, because I think that's been mentioned today, and that's merely a facade. The judges in the Court of Justice who make the judgments against workers, they are appointed, they're not elected. The Commission, the Executive of the European Union, the quasi-government of the European Union, all appointed again. The Parliament has got very limited and negative powers. It can stop things happening, can't produce them much, can't provoke much. And the Council, that's the top meeting of the ministers. It's run by the civil servants, and from a committee called COREPER. That's the Committee of Permanent Representations, all the different countries that sit in Brussels. These are the ones that really do the negotiations. And when the minister turns up to a meeting, civil servants goes and say, we've negotiated this, so just you sign that and you can get home. And that's basically the size of it. That's basically the civil servants run it. And then we've got issues like we mentioned already. TTIP, the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, negotiations conducted in secrecy. Who knows about it? Who knows exactly what's in it? We don't know exactly what's in it. But I can guarantee it's not going to be good for the workers of Europe, nor with public services. Now, some people would argue that really what we should do is stay in the European Union and fight to reform it, to get it to the way we want it to be. But I'm afraid the European Union's track record is very much against that happening. First of all, to change the articles I talked about, 3 and 3A, of the Treaty on European Union. To change that, you would need a unanimous vote in the Council of Ministers. There's 28 nations. There's always going to be one of them. Like Luxembourg, for example, never had a socialist government in its history, who would say, no, we're not going to move back. And it would go against the grain of a hell of a lot of other people as well. So that's difficult. So to achieve any fundamental reform, you would need to overcome this barrier in the Council of Ministers and get a unanimous vote. But it's quite clear, actually, that the priorities of the European Union are not about changing things to get them back the way we want. In spite of their high-sounding principles, the article before that, Article 2, actually says that the European Union believes in promoting a high level of employment and social protection. Now try telling that to the people of Greece, or the people of Spain, or to the young people in these countries that have seen their unemployment levels soar to above 40%. Try and tell them this is about solidarity, it's about high levels of employment, it's about high levels of social protection. They'll laugh in your face. And when the crisis came, as we saw, the priorities of the European Union weren't to invoke Article 2 and say we want to invoke the high principles of high social protection, high levels of employment. No, they said we'll bail out the bankers. And as was said from the floor there, that bailout came for French and German bankers. Didn't they come for the Greek people? Didn't they help the Greek people? In fact, they suffered it. People who were once prosperous in Athens are now living in the streets. People in Spain were jumping off of balconies because they were going to get evicted. And that's what the European Union calls solidarity and high levels of social protection. And it's all really a facade and an attempt to try and get people to believe in this great edifice that was built by the European Union. Which really, in spite of the fact that it says that we're all European Union citizens, doesn't really give a damn for the ordinary people. No, when push comes to shove, and it's the bankers or the people, every time they'll back the bankers. And when it comes to judgments in the Court of Justice, where workers' rights come up against some free trade thing, what will the judges back? They'll back the free trade. That's why the present Scottish Government can't introduce their idea about a minimum price on alcohol. That could be seen as an impediment to free trade. And that's only one example. That's why they can't hold out contracts to Clydebank or whoever. It's because it has to be done under the EU's system of compulsory competitive tendering. So that's basically what the EU is all about. And if anybody thinks this is some benign organisation, and I can appreciate young people, the idealism of young people, and would applaud it, the idealism of young people that say we want to mingle with our young people throughout Europe, geographical Europe. We want to mingle with them. We want to be friends with them. We don't want to go to war again. And I would applaud that. But don't think it's going to be in your interest to let the European Union do it for you, because they'll not do it for you. Their priority is very much in favour of big business. The corporate lobby is the ones who influence the legislation of the European Union. And make no mistake about it, the European Council of Industrialists is far more powerful in getting its ideas into legislation of the European Union. And to go any other way is to object to reality, because that is the reality of the situation. So, to me, it's time we joined the rest of the world and left the Eurocrats to their dreams of European Union statehood and get on with the job of making this country a far more better, fairer and equal place.